Hello again. Here we go. We continue with the Bitcoin white paper. In the last video, we had a look at the introduction, and now we will continue with the concept of transactions in this protocol. Therefore, let's read the first paragraph. We define an electronic coin as a chain of digital signatures. Each owner transfers the coin to the next by digitally signing a hash of the previous transaction and the public key of the next owner and adding this to the end of the coin. A payee can verify the signatures to verify the chain of ownership. So first of all, I will start from this statement here. A payee is the guy who's receiving a payment, right? A person to whom money is paid or is to be paid, especially the person to whom a check is made payable. And this secondary statement here is really useful in this case because what are transacted in these networks are not coin, are more checks. It's important to understand that in this network, even if we're dealing with monetary transactions, we do not use an account system. We use a token system, a verifiable token, which will be better to be called maybe a scripting system. I'm not sure which other terms exist, but this statement here, it's really important to be kept in mind. A payee can verify the signatures to verify the chain of ownership. What does this mean? A payee is in position, has a mechanism. There are some tools at this position that can be used to verify the signatures, to verify the chain of ownership. Which signatures? So what are we talking about? What are we verifying in order to obtain the verification of the chain of ownership? So here we have a nice schema. So we will start from owner second. Owner 2. Owner 2 wants to pay owner 3. Therefore, he will pass to owner 3 he will pass him a hash of a script, a hash of some instructions. For a moment, we can say that this guy here, owner 2, when he wants to pay owner 3, he will pass the hash of the transaction that they want to realize. this hash is solvable with owner2's signature. So in order to demonstrate that he can has the right to give his money to owner 3, he will need to sign the transaction with his private key. This transaction will be verifiable using his public key. So here we can see that the private key is used by owner2 to sign a statement, to sign, okay, I'm giving you X bitcoins. So signing it with the private key makes this transaction, this hash of a transaction, verifiable using the owner's public key. Okay, an important thing is that until he doesn't create, owner2 doesn't create a transaction which can be verified by owner3, nobody knows who are this money pertaining, unless they construct in some way a history of a token that is owned by owner2. But if owner2 did his due diligence and did a good work on how to manage tokens, until he uses these tokens, nobody knows who's the owner. Therefore, with this by sending a transaction with those tokens to owner3 and declaring that he signed and this transaction is verifiable by his public key, he's also declaring his possession in that moment, that very moment, he's declaring the possession of that token. Until that moment, if he used a different public address to receive tokens from others, it's not possible to say who's the private key which can sign that token and use it. Therefore, there isn't only the problem that once a transaction is signed with a private key, the only verification is doable with the public key of this owner. So there's a double hash protection, because the token that owner2 can use is hashed here and is hashed with his public key, okay, the public key that he provided to owner1. So this transaction hashed can be unhashed only by his private key, which is the act of signing. So the act of signing is an act of revelation of possession. Okay, so this detail, it's important because therefore now we can smoothly describe the series of actions which one has to do when transacting. So owner1 received some tokens from someone, which may be also a coin-based payment, which implies that he resolved a block and blah blah blah. He received some monies, or he received money tokens from another peer. That peer sent instructions of ownership of those tokens, so owner 0, let's say, instructed the network that these tokens pertain to owner 1, and he hashed using owner 1's public key, he hashed that transaction. Therefore, what happens is that when you unhash this transaction with owner 1's public key, what you find is another riddle, another hash, which can be resolved only knowing the owner 0 public key. So you can verify this only knowing owner 0 public key. Okay, so it's interesting. There's a layer which is hashed using owner's 1 public key and another using owner 0. Therefore, as the first layer is hashed using this guy public key, he will reveal to the public signing it. Therefore, signing this and sending it to this guy, hashing it with his public key, what happens is that as you first hashed with owner 1 public key, you signed it with the private key, and then you send to this guy the transaction hashing it with his public key. Then when someone wants to go backwards, they need to know that this transaction is directed to his public key, that therefore he has the private key to sign and liberate these tokens in order to be possessed by someone else, which they decide. But you can go backwards at this point, because knowing that the transaction worked in this direction, it was publicized by this signature, so you know that you can verify this going in this direction. Therefore, here you know that you can verify this going in this direction, and so forth. So backwards in reality. Therefore, when owner 3 received the tokens, nobody in the network knows who's the proprietary, unless owner 3 declared in some way, voluntarily or involuntarily, that he owns this public key. Maybe he repeated some transaction on the same public key, but if he used just one public key for each transaction, nobody knows who's owner 3 until he, using his private key, signs a transaction which uses this token. So owner 4 will say, okay, so you signed a transaction involving this token here, I can verify that it was you. He goes back to owner 3 public key, and then he can arrive to owner 0 going backwards and saying, okay, this token was signed by owner 2 before owner 3, and then by owner 1 before owner 2, and by owner 0 before owner 1. And everything happens, you go backwards using public keys. And you can go forward using private key. Private key is the only thing that allows one to consume, so to create a transaction. Public keys allow, of course, to receive. The mechanism that is used to sigillate a token is also based on the public key. So this mechanism, which I really explained with so many words, is explained in only these 3 paragraphs. Of course, it's not detailed as I've been, maybe, but it's already touching the fact that we define an electric coin as a chain of digital signatures. So we have seen these chain characteristics. Signatures, be aware that the signature is what you do with the private key, and verification or change of possession is done with the public key. Each owner transfers the coin to the next by digitally signing a hash. Okay, so this is the digitally signing a hash of the previous transaction and the public key of the next owner. So with this signature, I'm saying, okay, the token I received here now is associated with this public key. So at the end of the coin, we have the public key of the next owner. And only the next owner knows the private key, which resolves this hash here, revealing the previous transaction in which the token has been involved, and the public key which possess this token. Therefore, knowing who emitted this payment, you can go backwards and discover the other things. The problem, of course, is the payee can't verify that one of the owner did not double spend the coin. Okay, so until now he's just talking about the transaction as series of hash and signatures. A common solution is to introduce a trusted central authority or mind that checks every transaction for double spending. So we introduce a trusted third party for the clearance operations. After each transaction, the coin must be returned to the mint to issue a new coin, and only coins issued directly from the mint are trusted not to be double spent. So this is a scheme where each time you want to spend your coin, basically you go to the third party that emitted the coin, and you, in that third party register, you will move your coin to someone else. It's basically what we do with transaction to the bank. We communicate to the bank that our token is not valid anymore. They need to move it to someone else. And only when this is accepted by the central authority, the clearance, they will do it, because you're not granted that this action will work, as they are in power, because they provide the service of double spending checking. The problem with this solution is that the fate of the entire money system depends on the company running the mint, with every transaction having to go through them just like a bank. Okay. So with this, he's also criticizing other electronic cash system, not only banks. We need a way to pay, for the payee to know that the previous owners did not sign any earlier transactions. So how do you know that this guy is not using, this mechanism, saying, hey, look, I'm signing this, take it. I'm signing this, take it. So he just sends many copies of this hash. He's in position, the history behind him is valid, and he can send to 100 people the same hash signed by himself. Each time you just change this part here, which is hashing the transaction with the public key of the next guy. They will all receive a hash, which in the first instance it's resolvable by them, and they will be able to check everything backwards. But what grants them that continuing then, when they will want to spend the money, when owner 4 will want to pay owner 5, how are they sure that another owner will not come there and say, hey, look, I have the same hash as you, the same hash transaction by owner 3, and he did it at the same time. He did it at the same time, I would say the same minute. So after each transaction, the coin must be returned to the mint, issue a new coin. Yeah, so this is a way to avoid the double spending, but here we are raising up the level, saying we need a way for the payee to know that the previous owners did not sign any earlier transactions without having a third party, a bank in the middle. For our purposes, the earliest transaction is the one that counts. So we don't care about later attempts to double spend. So this network is not saying that you cannot double spend transaction. It's just saying that only the first one will be registered. Then you can do whatever you want. You can reuse the same token many times. But if the node that is receiving the token is connected to the network and is correctly gathering information from the other nodes, this double spend will not be accepted. The only way to confirm the absence of a transaction is to be aware of all transactions. So when I say that you need to know if you're the payee and you're receiving a token from someone, you need to be sure of all the history. You need to be sure that this payment, this new transaction is coherent with all transaction that already happened. In the mint-based model, the mint was aware of all transactions and decided which arrived first. So here we just have a guy with the register, which allows him to derive the account of each user. Therefore, they are in position to decide which arrived first. To accomplish this without a trusted party, the transactions must be publicly announced. And we need a system for participants to agree on a single history of the order in which they were received. So two things: publicity and a mechanism for agreements on a series of events. The payee needs proof that at the time of each transaction, the majority of nodes agreed it was the first received. Okay, so this is the chapter about transaction. It's just laying down an analysis of the current solution, the other electronic cash system which have been proposed, which, as already mentioned, focus not focus, but they used to propose solution only to the signature side of mechanisms. Instead, here is being proposed not only the signature side of things, but it's repeating the necessity for distributor register. So instead of leaving the ledger in the hands of just one guy, we all need to be able to check the ledger. Therefore, we need to make transactions publicly announced, and we all need to have a consistent, to have to be sure that we are working all on the same version of history. Therefore, we need like an integrity among all the nodes. Okay, so it's not really talking about solution in some way. It's just describing the nature of the solution. It's not directly providing it. In the next video, we will talk about the timestamp server, which is just a short paragraph, just one paragraph and one graphic. Maybe we can do it now, as this was already short as a chapter. This video for this chapter was short, therefore we go with the timestamp server. Let's go. So here we've seen that the author, which is called Satoshi Nakamoto, we don't know who is CIA, NSA, a group of mathematicians, a group of cypherpunk, some kids in Korea. I'm not sure who the hell was this Satoshi. What he says in the third chapter is that the solution we propose begins with a timestamp server. So he starts talking about the solution in this case. A timestamp server works by taking a hash of a block of items to be timestamped and widely publishing the hash, such as in a newspaper or Usenet post. The timestamp proves that the data must have existed at the time, obviously, in order to get into the hash. Each timestamp includes the previous timestamp in its hash, forming a chain, with each additional timestamp reinforcing the ones before it. So, quite direct. I wouldn't say simple, it's direct. I wouldn't say simple to not underestimate this, as this is a nesting of hash, and for each hash we have a timestamp. Therefore, we just have a timestamp server. In this moment, we are talking about a role. When we say a timestamp server, we are talking about a role. Remember, in this network, timestamp server is a role executed by, we'll see what type of machines. And what they do when they work in this role is to take transactions, form a block of text structured with a header and a body, and then they perform a hash of this text. They associate a timestamp and publish it to everybody. So everybody knows that at that time happened this hash, and going and resolving the hash allows to verify what was included in the block. And this phrase here says something really important, which sums up with what I called social and historical phenomena, which is this is basically why it's not convenient, why there are not good incentives in attacking this network, because the more the honest nodes work, each 10 minutes they bring up a new block with a new hash, which includes in its definition all the hash that have been calculated in the whole history. And when you generate another block, you create a chain, and the longer is the chain, the less is probable that someone will be able to attack it. Because the longer it's the advantage of the honest chain on an attacker's chain, the longer is this advantage, the more the attacker will need to put work into replicating a longer chain with their history of events. Therefore, it is possible to create another chain, a longer one, with a different version of history. But you need to put all the necessary work to create a longer chain, which we'll see after. I'm sure that we'll have time to discuss on how you can theoretically do this and why it's not convenient. We will discuss it later also. But basically, once you accomplish accumulating all that computational power and putting it in the network, first, you're not granted that someone else will not do the same. And when you're in that position, if you're a rational attacker or rational agent, what you will evaluate is, does this cost of attacking this network, is it worth watching at what I will obtain? So the destruction of this system where I'm the most powerful node, which means that probably I can get revenues from this network, because the more you put power in this network, and the higher the probabilities are that you will receive some compensations for making it working. And if you look at the end, the incentives do not really make it worth it to attack, to destroy the system. Instead, it looks like that you're always aligned with honest strategies. The more power you put in it, the more it will be convenient for you to be honest. Okay, so here we did already chapter 2 and 3. Next are chapter 4 and 5. I will do them in the next video. So I'm really grateful for having you here. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.